Well, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. And today we're going to be doing a racing simulator game tier list. Now, tier list is something I do very rarely. I've only ever really done it with like friends, just as a joke, but I've never done one properly. Now, quickly before we get into the video, the full credit for this idea goes to Jimmy Broadbent and the tier list video he made about 2 years ago, and I wanted to do a similar thing, but they actually put a link to the one he used, so I'm just going to use that same template. Don't come at me for stealing his content. I am fully aware that the idea is his. I just wanted to do it myself. But yeah, without further ado, let's just get straight into the video. Okay, so as we can see here on the left hand side of the list, so we've got 6 tiers. We have GOAT, Pure Simulator, Simulator-ish, Middle of the Road, Arcade-ish, and Full Arcade. Now, quick disclaimer, Full Arcade is not a bad thing. It just sort of depends on what kind of game it is. But sometimes, I guess you might see Full Arcade as an insult, but that's whatever. But we'll get straight into it. So, our first game here, I believe, this is R Factor 1. Now, R Factor 1 is a game I haven't played a lot. It's a game I've played a little bit, and I don't mind it too much. Like, the physics, for its time, back when it came out in, like, 2006 or something, basically when I was born, was really good for its time. But now that we've got newer games like iRacing, R Factor 2, Automobilista, and the like, it's sort of fallen out of favour, but that is to be expected. So, for our first entry, I think R Factor 1 goes into simulator-ish, because it's got the history there of a good simulator, but it doesn't really compete anymore. So, yeah, so R Factor 1 is simulator-ish. Right, now, okay, so our second game here is Assetto Corsa. Now, Assetto Corsa is a game I'm very fond of. Like, it's a game I love, I play it a lot, the mods are fantastic, and the driving is really good. It's quite tricky, though, because I don't know if I want to put it in pure simulator or in simulator-ish, because what Assetto Corsa does really well is its road cars. The way road cars move around on their tyres and the way they slide is super detailed in Assetto Corsa, but they don't really do it well in any other games. But if you look at a normal race car, it's not as good. So, this is going to be an extremely... Actually, no, I'm not. No, I was going to put it in simulator-ish. No, it's going in pure simulator. I think that is more than fair for the original Assetto Corsa. But if you haven't already, go play it, because you will not. You won't regret it. Now, okay, Project Cars 2. Now, this is a game which I'm like a die-hard fan of. Like, one of the things I'm most upset about in sim racing is the fact that I cannot play this game anymore, because I absolutely adore it. It's amazing. Don't get me wrong, it is not a pure simulator by any means. It's got weird handling quirks, like the cars always understeer, and the collision physics are more than strange, I think is the right word for it. But regardless of that, it's a really good, like, first sim. It was one of the first simulators I, like, properly played when I was a bit younger, and I loved it. And for that reason, it goes in simulator-ish. Not as good as R Factor 1, because R Factor 1 is a bit more consistent. It's got less glitches. But Project Cars 2 is a phenomenal game, and I was so gutted when they delisted it. But yeah, simulator-ish for Project Cars 2. Right, now, Forza Motorsport 7. This is an interesting one. This is a game I used to play a lot. Well, I wouldn't say a lot. I definitely played it a little bit, but I mainly played it on controller, because I've always seen Forza Motorsport as a controller arcade game where you buy cars and you upgrade them and you race them. I've never seen it as sort of a game you play on a racing wheel. But that being said, the Forza games have gotten better over time in terms of physics, but Forza Motorsport 7 is not on the level of simulator-ish, of Project Cars 2, of Assetto Corsa, of R Factor 1, and for that reason, I don't think it quite goes in middle of the road either. One thing with Forza Motorsport 7, which I think is worthy of demoting it to arcade-ish is certain cars can be drivetrain swapped when in real life they shouldn't be. Like, you can drivetrain swap a front-wheel drive Renault Clio like 2005 and swap it to be this rear-wheel drive V8 monster, which is not realistic at all. I get it's supposed to be like an arcade game, but if you think to Forza, where its main competitor is Gran Turismo 7 down here, I don't think that's good enough. So for me, personally, Forza Motorsport 7 goes in the arcade-ish category. Okay, next up is Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Full arcade, no question. The only bit of simulation is when your brother hits you with a shell and then on the last lap and then you punch him. That's realism. That is pure simulation. But yeah, no. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is full arcade. Okay, now, Dirt Rally 2. Dirt Rally 2 is an interesting one because it's the game really I played most when I was on console before I had my PC. When I bought my PC, EA WRC had basically just come out, so I didn't do a lot of that on console. I was mainly Dirt Rally 2 on console. And for a console simulator, and for a game of its time, it's phenomenal. The graphics are awesome, the physics are really good, and the cars are done to a really nice level of detail, and so is the sound. The only downside, I would say, to Dirt Rally 2 is it's a little bit sort of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, if you have an accident, you usually can get away with it quite easily. And the other thing I don't like is the way that you get reset on the stage after you go off by like a millimeter. But in that sense, it's still a very, very good sim. So, before I played EA Sports WRC and Richard Burns Rally, I would have put Dirt Rally 2.0 in pure simulator, but now that I've played those two titles, I would put Dirt Rally 2 in simulator-ish above Project... Actually, no, I'm going to put it above R-Factor 1 and Project Cars 2. I think that's fair enough for Dirt Rally. Okay, so our next game on this list is Wreckfest. Now, Wreckfest is a game that I love. Oops, sorry about that. It's super fun to just mess around in. You know, you get to play with friends, wreck them, crash into people, and it's a good way to relieve some anger. But then again, it's not... I wouldn't quite say it's a simulator. I have played it on wheel. The game, like, it feels decent, right? It's got a good handling model. Obviously, it doesn't need to be a simulator because it's a crashing game. And the way the cars sort of break and destruct is very arcadey. But for that reason, I would say Wreckfest, it's the perfect balance in terms of handling model and physics of arcade and simulator. So for that reason, Wreckfest is our first middle-of-the-road entry. I think that's fair enough for Wreckfest. Really good game. Would recommend it. Now, okay, next game is BeamNG Drive. Now, this is a tricky one because it's a car crashing simulator, technically. Technically, it's like a damaged soft body sim. But in the recent years, the driving's actually gotten really good. And for that reason, I don't think there's any other place than pure simulator for BeamNG because it's so detailed in the way the cars work and move. So yeah, it's a really good sim in terms of like minute details, and the driving in the last few years backs up that pure simulator claim. Okay, next game is SnowRunner. Now, SnowRunner, once again, I'm going to say this a lot in this video, SnowRunner is a game I absolutely love. I wouldn't quite say it's realistic, because it's got some very realistic elements in the way the trucks tip over and the way they sort of get stuck in mud and in ice, etc. Some non-realistic things about it. The collision physics aren't great. The wheel support isn't massive, which I think is a bit of a shame. Because if it had more wheel support, I think it would be a fantastic game. When I used to play it, I would alternate between wheel and controller, depending on what I felt like. But SnowRunner, honestly, genuinely, for the game that it is, simulator-ish. And I would put it below Project Cars 2, but SnowRunner, simulator-ish, definitely. Okay, next game is Trackmania. Now, Trackmania is a game I'm not very good at. I used to do, like, ranked stuff on Trackmania briefly for, like, a month, like last year, and it was relatively fun. But, it's definitely not a simulator, but the way you sort of take racing lines, and that concept of taking a racing line in the game, does bump it up a bit from full arcade, although the collision physics and everything, you know, sort of like that. So I'm going to put it in arcade-ish, below Forza 7. But yeah, Trackmania is a really solid game in terms of, like, learning lines and how to be quicker, but obviously the collision physics and doing jumps is not simulator-like. Okay, so the next addition to this tier list is Assetto Corsa Competizione. I'm going to get cancelled by Italy for that. But yeah, this game, without a question, straight into pure simulator. No doubt about it. Assetto Corsa Comp does one thing, which is GT3s and GT4s, but it does that so bloody well, it can't be anything other than pure simulator in my book. Like, it's absolutely phenomenal in terms of a simulator. In my opinion, it's the most realistic game to be put on consoles, and for that, and the way the cars bounce over curbs, the curb physics are brilliant, off-road physics are brilliant, the wet weather is spot on, aside from iRacing, but yeah, it is spot on. And the collision physics are really good. Plus the day-night transitions are amazing. So, Assetto Corsa Competizione is definitely pure simulator above the original Assetto Corsa, in my opinion. Okay, next game is Project Cars 3, full arcade. Above Mario Kart 8. It's a game I played once. Actually, correction, I've never played it before. I've watched IGN reviews and like YouTuber reviews of the game. It looks terrible. Full arcade. Easy. Okay, next up is Dirt 5. Now, Dirt 5 is actually a game I got quite fond of over time as I played it more. At first, I didn't quite like it, just for the way it sort of drives. But over time, you know, I came to like it because, like, it's got really nice graphics, and, you know, like, it's fun, it's a different experience, and it's nice and laid back. But definitely, it's not a simulator in terms of driving. It's fun, the graphics are good. The way the cars bounce off each other is quite unrealistic, but the way the cars jump and have weight and slide around, especially, is actually quite realistic. But so for that reason, it's going to go in arcade-ish. Above Forza 7. Actually, no, it's going to go below Forza 7. But, yeah, I wouldn't quite say it's middle of the road, but it's definitely not a full arcade, because it does have sim elements to it. And the wheel support for Dirt 5 is pretty good. So, yeah, it goes in arcade-ish. Okay, so the next game on this list is Art of Rally. Now, Art of Rally is a pretty fun game. It's a game I'm not good at all. I'm terrible at Art of Rally. But it's a pretty fun game. It's realistic in the sense that the cars, like you can slide them around, and they have weight, and it sort of acts as how a car should, but then it loses a lot of points, you know, for being a top-down, poly-animated racing game. But I would put it in arcade-ish above Trackmania because the cars do have weight, and they act relatively like a normal car. So arcade-ish for Art of Rally, and it's a game I would definitely recommend go and buying, because it's only like $15 or something, so definitely worth it. But yeah, Art of Rally, arcade-ish. Okay, now, WRC 10, another rally game on this list. I played WRC 10 a lot. I had this, because I bought it back on my Xbox, and I had this three-month stint of that was all I would play. I actually got quite good at it in the end. I was top 100 on quite a few stages in the WRC cars. But WRC 10 is a tricky one to rate. The general handling is okay. I hated the force feedback on the game and the way the cars would sort of, like, grip on tarmac and then endlessly slide around on dirt to the point where it was almost unrealistic. So WRC10 is a tricky one for me. It had cons, it had pros. The stage design was awesome, and that would bump it up a few notches. But I think WRC10 just doesn't quite hit simulator-ish in my book. I would say Dirt Rally 2.0 is a better rally game compared to WRC10. So for that reason, it goes in middle of the road above Wreckfest. So yeah, middle of the road for WRC10. Okay, next game up is Forza Horizon 5. Full arcade. It's an open world. The cars have some physics, but it's a game I do enjoy I sort of prefer the older Forzas, Horizons, compared to Horizon 5, but it's a good game, but it is, in my book, it is a full arcade. Not quite on the level of Dirt 5 or Forza 7, but it is that way for a reason. Like, it's a drive swap, upgrading cars, drifting kind of game, and danger signs don't help its case. Okay, next up is Gran Turismo 7. Now, Gran Turismo 7 is not a game I've played often. I've played it a few times on, like, friends, simulators, and stuff like that. So I've played it 3 or 4 times, but it's not a game I own, and it's not a game I play consistently. When I have played it, I would say it is quite good. The handling is decent. The wet weather is spot on. It's one of the best wet weather systems for a console game. But then downsides, the steering always feels very light. The cars don't have much feel. And the one thing I very much there's 2 things I dislike about Gran Turismo 7. The damage model kind of sucks, not gonna lie. And when I see like online clips of players yeeting others into the pit wall entry because the collision physics are so lighthearted, and then getting away with it because additionally the penalty system sucks. It's not great, but for what it is, it's a damn sight better than any Forza Motorsport game. So for that reason, I would put it in middle of the road, above Wreckfest, and actually, I will put it above WRC10 as well. Okay, so the next game is Grid Legends. Now, I sort of see Grid Legends as like the Dirt 5 version of motorsport racing games. So not very realistic. You're expected to sort of throw the car around, scrape against walls. You actually get bonus points for hitting other cars and scraping along other cars, which isn't very realistic. But it's a game I've played a fair bit, and it's a game I do enjoy. Like, it's nice and relaxing. So for that reason, I would put it arcade-ish, just below Dirt 5, because I do think Dirt 5 has a little bit more simulation value. There we go. Yeah. Okay, so next up is F1 22. Now, this is a game I got really good at, and a lot of people would say, oh, it's unrealistic, and it's terrible, and it's all this. But if we compare it to a game like F1 24, it's actually not bad. Now, I would probably put it on the same level as a Gran Turismo, because there are weird ways for you to drive quickly, like never going below fourth gear, and the traction was hopelessly unrealistic and way too slippery. But apart from that, the AI were good, the damage was good, and for that reason, I'm going to get murdered for this take. F1 22 goes in simulator-ish. I can hear the keyboard warriors going nuts on me already. Okay, so next up is Pyongyang Racer. What do I do with this? It's the GOAT. Can't deny it. Pyongyang Racer, GOAT status. Okay, so next up is Dakar. I believe that's Dakar 18, or like Dakar Desert Rally, I think it's called. This is a game I have played before. It's interesting because it has like the whole logbook or roadbook or sat-nav or whatever you call the navigation system in the cars, which is cool. And the damage model is good. The level and the map design is really good as well. But the driving is sort of to be desired a bit. The driving isn't that realistic. But then the AI also aren't great when you do catch up to them. So Dakar's a hard one to rate. it gains points for having the road book or the log book, but then it loses points for not being very good in terms of feel, and the wheel support is garbage. So for that reason, it goes in middle of the road, and I would put it... Oh, do I put it above or below Wreckfest? I'm going to put it below Wreckfest, but we might come back to that one later. Okay, so next up is Automobilista 2. Now, this is a game I do like. It's not overly realistic from my experience. Like, it's got good cars. It's got some bad cars as well. And the AI are pretty terrible. But for that reason, I think it does go in simulator-ish. It doesn't deserve to be in pure simulator, for me. But simulator-ish, I think, is fair for Automobilista 2. The tyre sim is a lot better than what it was. So for Automobilista 2, I'm going to put it above Project Cars 2. Actually, no, I am going to put it above R-Factor 1 as well. So yeah, Automobilista 2. And the thing with Automobilista 2 is it handles very similar to Project Cars 2. It's just the game is a little bit more put together, I think, if you get what I mean, yeah. Okay, so next up is the original Automobilista. Now this, I think, it's a difficult one to rate, but I am going to put it controversially, very controversially, at the top of simulator-ish. My reason for that is it's very good, the damage model is good, the tyres are good, but it's just, there's something there which it's missing. I don't know if it's like the graphics or the collision physics are weird, and the way the cars sort of lag off of each other is sort of to be desired. But I think Automobilista 1 is something we're going to have to come back to once we've done all the other games. But yeah, for now, top of simulator-ish for Automobilista 1. Alright, Need for Speed Heat. Full arcade. Above... I mean, it's a Need for Speed game. Come on. It's like, yeah, it's a Need for Speed game. You don't need that to be anywhere more than full arcade at all. Okay, so the next game here is R-Factor 2. Now, this is a difficult one because I'm sure if you're an avid simulator game fan, you would know all about the Le Mans virtual disaster from a few years ago. R-Factor 2 is a game you need to be very experienced to get working right, but when it does work, it's a very good sim. But just due to the fact it had all these problems, I can't put it higher than simulator-ish, and I would put it lower than Automobilista. Yeah, I think that's fair enough. R-Factor 2 is just such a pain to get working, and for that reason, it just can't meet pure simulator. Okay, so the next game here is iRacing. I mean, what else do we do? The GOAT. The absolute GOAT of sim racing. iRacing cannot be beaten at all. It's got as many cars as you'd like. It's got so many tracks. The tyre physics are insane. The setups are insane. The weather, the rain is the best rain simulation / model on the entire sim racing market. I mean, I could go on and on about how iRacing is just the best sim racing game out there. Immediately GOAT status, and I know the cost is hard to justify, but if you invest in a 1-month subscription, you will not be disappointed at all. GOAT Simulator. Okay, so not many more games to go now. Next up is NASCAR 21 Ignition. This is a game I've played once or twice. It's full arcade. It's worse than Project Cars 3. NASCAR 21 Ignition, it has to be one of the most disappointing games I think I have ever played in sim racing. The handling is abysmal. You can't turn half of the assists off. You can't turn motion blur off. It's got weird like spinning where sometimes you just get like auto spun coming out of a corner. It's just an abysmal game, and it looks awful. And the setups, I mean, there's only 5 setups for each for just in the game in general. So terrible game, but it's got more simulation value than Need for Speed Heat and Mario Kart 8. Okay, so next up is Richard Burns Rally. Now, this is an easy one to go full arcade. No, I'm kidding. It goes in GOAT status. It's the best rally game, I think, on the market. If you can look past some weird-looking trees and some slightly bad graphics, like some 2000 graphics, if you can look past that, then you will enjoy Richard Burns Rally so much. It is just a phenomenal sim game. Absolutely amazing. Okay, next up is Grid Autosport. Now, this is a game I enjoy a lot. I played this back on the old Xbox and PlayStation 3. This is a game I really like. And for that reason, I would like to put it in middle of the road. I'm not going to, because it's like the handling is very arcadey. The damage is quite good, because you can get punctures and stuff. But for me, it goes in arcade-ish. It's above Grid Legends, and I would put it above Dirt 5 in terms of simulation value. So there you go, Grid Autosport, one of my favourite racing games of all time, arcade-ish. Okay, so next up is EA WRC. Now, this is a game I absolutely love. Phenomenal rally game. It's got really good things. The gravel physics are really good. The tarmac physics are a big step up from Dirt Rally 2.0. The cars have a really nice level of detail. So does the sound design. But like Dirt Rally 2.0, it is quite forgiving as a rally game. So for that reason, and for that reason only, it does go in simulator-ish. But it does go above Dirt Rally 2.0 just. I would say, like, if you rated the two, I would give Dirt Rally 2 like a 3.5 out of 5 like stars, and then I'd give WRC like a 4.2 stars. So it's a good game, I would recommend it, but not quite pure simulator for me. Alright, Project Cars 1, the first Project Cars. Now this is an interesting one, because it has a lot of the same characteristics as Project Cars 2. There's that terminal understeer, which isn't really fixable. There's also the rain is incredibly slippery, and although the rain looks good, it's sort of hard to predict on how to drive. But Project Cars 2, solid game. It was a good way to begin the series, and for that reason, I would put it in middle of the road, and I would put it above WRC 10. Alright, 2 games to go now, and this one is going to be controversial. F1 24. This is so hard to rate, because I've been a die-hard fan of the F1 games for as long as I can remember, basically. But the F1 24 game is the first game in the entire series which I've refunded because I hated it so much. It's got simulation elements, like the pit stops are good, formation laps, etc. Things you'd expect in a Formula 1 game. But the handling is just so off that it's hard to recommend. And for that reason, controversially, arcade-ish above Forza 7. And like, it even sucks on controller as well, so I don't really know what Codemasters were getting at and EA were getting at with F1 24, but it's a shame. Okay, so the final game on this list, before we start switching things around, is the new Forza Motorsport. Now, this is a game I don't like that much. It's got sim elements. The handling isn't too bad. I would play it on a controller rather than a wheel, but it isn't horrible. So for that reason, I mean, it's better than Forza Motorsport 7, definitely. The rain, on the new one is relatively good compared to the old one, and it got away, and it got rid of bad things from the 7th game, with things such as like that terminal oversteer which plagued Forza 7. So for that reason, it goes in the middle of the road. I would pop it above Wreckfest and above Dakar, but it doesn't quite clear WRC 10 and Project Cars 1 for me. Just not. Purely because I'd rather play it on a controller. Okay, so the final thing we're going to do for this tier list video is we're just going to move some things around, because there may or may not be some things I'm happy with. So we're just going to go through this tier by tier, starting off with GOAT, iRacing, Richard Burns Rally, and Pyongyang Racer. All GOAT games. I'm not going to change anything there. Pure Simulator, Assetto Corsa Comp, Assetto Corsa, and BeamNG Drive. That doesn't need any changing, I don't think. They're all deserving of the Pure Simulator spot. Automobilist, Simulator-ish. Automobilista 1, I'm going to change my mind. Pure Simulator for Automobilista 1. Not quite as good as the other 3, but after a little bit of thinking, I would put it in Pure Simulator. R-Factor 2. This is a game I am going to move down. I'm going to move it down to here. I'm going to move Automobilista 2 to the just behind EA WRC, but after a bit of thinking, I think Automobilista 2 is a much better sim than R-Factor 2, controversially. Alright, next up, middle of the road category. One thing I'm going to change one thing here, because I put F122 in Simulator-ish, I think that also constitutes Gran Turismo 7 to be in Simulator-ish as well, because I would put them on par with one another, so I'm going to make that change. Middle of the road, apart from that, nothing else needs changing here. This is all good. Arcade-ish, I'm not going to move anything around, apart from one. I'm actually going to put Grid Legends above Dirt 5, after a little bit of consideration. And I'm going to put Forza Motorsport 7 above F124, which is a big call. And then full arcade, nothing needs changing here. That is all good. But there you go, guys. That has been this tier list video. Hopefully you all enjoyed. This was something very different. I did, but hopefully you all enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun making it. If you disagree with any of these picks, just let me know in the comments. Try to keep it civil. And don't be a dick about it. But yeah, that's all from me. Have an awesome rest of your day or night, wherever you are in the world, guys. And I will see you all in the next video. Take care, everybody.